Good afternoon. Thank you for attending the Swick Technologies Protecting Your IT is a Priority Lock It Down seminar. We're going to talk today about how to protect your internal network from cybersecurity attacks. Welcome everyone. If there's any questions, there's a Q&A panel on the WebEx. If you fill in your questions, I will try to answer them along the way. If I don't get to them during the presentation, then I will answer them specifically at the end of the presentation. So thanks again for attending, and let's talk about Lock It Down. My name is Gary Swick. I'm the president of Swick Technologies. I've had 30 years experience in IT, and I feel like an ancient Herman monster. Our Swick Tech team is a great technical team. 80% of the team is 20 years younger than I am, and interestingly enough, anybody from the 35 to 40 year range also has 30 years of experience with technology. These kids grew up with it, and I call them kids, but they are definitely a lot more intelligent than I am when it comes to some of the newer technologies. I myself am the president of the company. I help bring people into Swick Technologies. We help different businesses create that stability and give that experience of high quality technical support. What's with the Stability Cube? Stability Cube is part of our logo. The Swick Tech Stability Cube is our process built around the company core values and the 6 technology best practices needed for a stable computer network. Our vision is creating stability in business computer systems. And the Swick Tech Stability Cube is our method of how we put your data inside of our protection to make sure that you have your data well protected and that your business critical information is accessible to you anywhere that you go. Today we're talking about network security, which is a side of the Stability Cube that we pay attention to, and the presentation today will really address some of those standards and so forth that we use when we lock down a network. To start with, what is network security and how does that compare to cybersecurity? Well, network security is the protection of all your data that leaves or enters the local PC or the local file server. This includes things like virus protection, password policies, data access policies, maybe an employee use policy. It's those standards and best practices that are implemented to protect your internal network. Cybersecurity requires a greater situational awareness. Cybersecurity event correlates with the application traffic flow of your data as it enters and leaves the building. Think about the ways that your business critical digital information travels around the internet. Does it travel to and from your cloud-based products, or is it just internally within your company's walls? And cybersecurity requires more monitoring about the behaviors of your people and the monitoring of the data, again, as it enters or leaves your building. And really, network security is a subset of cybersecurity and is the best place for protecting your data. If you have your internal network and you add some sort of a cloud-based product, now you have different places that you have to look at for cybersecurity. You have 2 different entryways where your data travels to and from the internet, along with the internal network, with VPNs and your network access. So we want to make sure, again, having the network security set up correctly will help protect you from cyber attacks and help protect you from the cybersecurity as well. As your company grows and you get into a multi-site office situation where you have branch offices that are interconnected, maybe you have some cloud-based products in there again, you still have those 2 cybersecurity sections that you have to pay attention to. plus a lot more internal security where you have to watch and pay attention to what's going on with your network. There's a lot of bad guys out there who are trying to hack networks and go after your business critical information. So there's a lot of different things you can do to protect your internal network. It's pretty scary out there. At Swick Technologies, we have a disaster recovery checklist. It's one of the things on the handouts that you have. Everything from, oops, I overwrote the file, to, hey, my basement's flooded and that's where my server is. We help you protect and understand where those risk factors are and can design solutions that protect your network and give you that stability that you need. Cybercrime is escalating. You see it in the news all the time, and it's up to us to figure out how to keep your data safe, even if it's in the cloud and not necessarily on your own internal network systems. Identity theft and data breaches are happening all the time, and global hackers are really creating mischief all over the country. So keep that in mind. No one type of company is really safe. Hackers are hitting the smaller companies as well as larger organizations. Think about your competitors. If somebody was trying to get a competitive advantage, they could get your client list if they wanted to hack into your systems. And it goes beyond just what external things might happen to your business. Think about unhappy employees. You get an employee that wants to do damage to your business, they could take your client list and sell it to your competitors. Also, sometimes it's just a lack of training. Employees don't necessarily know what emails they're supposed to open. If they get an email that sounds like it's from your bank, they might open an attachment without thinking twice or checking the links that are included in those email messages. We actually had a situation where a client had an employee that clicked on an email message and infected their computer. When the manager replaced the computer with a new one, the first thing the employee did was to go back to that email and click it again. Fortunately, the new computer had the Swick Tech standards for protecting the machine, and the new machine did not get infected. It was locked down properly, and the secondary attack was prevented. There's a lot of bad guys out there trying to wreak havoc with your network. One example is an employee who ordered pet supplies from a website for years. They've been getting their pet supplies, they've been shipped, there has been no problem. Well, unfortunately, that website got hacked, and the next time the employee went to the website to order the supplies, some background program got installed on her computer and got it infected. That can happen to anybody, so having your internal systems locked down and protected will help your business in the event that some external company gets hacked, because it doesn't necessarily have to be you that's infected and your websites are hacked. Don't let your data be held hostage. I was reading an article the other day about a company whose website was hacked and it was encrypted, and the hackers actually encrypted the backups of the website. And after 3 months of backups, they all got encrypted, and the hackers then encrypted the website and said, hey, you want to pay $10,000, we can get your website back up and running again. And of course, all the backups were encrypted, so they had no choice but to pay the $10,000. Unfortunately, the hackers were bad coding people, and they just, the fix that they gave the guy did not unencrypt the files. It was actually, the hackers actually made a mistake. So here the company is out $10,000, and they didn't even have the website to restore from backup. They wound up having to recode the whole website, and of course, you know, your website is everything these days. Another thing you want to check is your registrant information. You can look up on the internet about who owns the domain name that you're using. Make sure that it's your company. I have seen IT companies and web developers where the owner of the domain name is the company that does the development, not the actual owner of the website. And what happens is when it comes down to the legal requirements, the registrant is the one who owns that website and has all the authority. So make sure that your website is owned by you as a company and not some other third party that you might have to get into a legal battle with. So where do you start? At Swick Technologies, we use the business network and design open system interconnect model. It's a standard model that's used to describe computer technology, and it takes and manages the technology everywhere from where the data is physically located, where those electrons are stored, through all of the parts and pieces needed to you, the end user. At Swick Tech, we understand the IT from you at the top of the chart all the way down to the physical data and how it's stored. So we can get that physical data to your fingertips in a encrypted and a highly protected fashion. We understand that. The 10-step checklist that we included is one of those things that will help you understand where you're at and what to do. As far as at Swick Tech, with the where to start, we look at network security as 3 different layers. Layer 1 is your firewall. It's that front door protection. It's almost like the big lock on the building of the front door of your building, protecting your physical assets. The layer 2 is your internal network data, those workstations, the mobile devices, where your file systems are stored, your email server, maybe you've got a client list, maybe you've got some enterprise resource planning system. It's whatever that secret sauce is to protect your business and of your business and that digital data that you're trying to protect. And then layer 3 are those outside resources, those off-site things that you do to have your data protected before it gets into the building. Step 1, then start with documentation. Start with that physical security. We recommend you get a floor plan of the building. Make sure you understand where your servers are in the building and is that room locked. Doors to the server room should always be locked. And of course, we had a client say, yes, the door is locked, but everyone has a key. Well, they were using the computer room also for a storeroom. And that's okay. That might be good for some businesses, but keep in mind that somebody going in there for paper might accidentally trip over a power cord or step on a network cable. In those situations, we actually had one client put a cage around the server area so that they could still use the storeroom, but their physical security on their server was locked down. At our data center, we have to have a photo ID and a thumbprint to enter or leave the areas where the servers are located. That gives a log file. So that might be another thing you consider, is to keep a log of who enters or leaves the room. Other things you might want to know in your documentation is where does the phone and internet connection enter the building. That could be important in an emergency situation. It also helps you protect and understand where your data is traveling as it enters and leaves the building. Knowing exactly where it's located really helps you protect the data. And then also in your documentation, understand any of your cloud-based services, where that is located. Maybe it's in a different building down the street, or maybe it's in New Jersey or China. Knowing where that is can again help protect you and give you that information should there be a problem. Step 2 is get your firewall documentation up to date. Know that configuration. Not only does firewalls primarily protect you from inbound attacks, but firewalls are also configured for outbound traffic. The good firewall configuration will make sure that email going out of your building is only coming from your email server. It's just one way to help protect your network and protect you from getting viruses and ruining your digital reputation, as it were. The other important part about having the detailed documentation of your firewall is should your firewall fail and you need to replace it, with good quality documentation, any competent IPT professional can reprogram another firewall to take the place of the one that failed. In your packets, you'll find a wide area network documentation. This documentation is just the kinds of things that we recommend that you keep, get it filled out, know and understand where this data is or where the configuration is so that you can protect yourself. We also recommend that you keep local area network documentation. What kind of internal stuff might you put onto your network and how you might control it. Those things are very important when it comes time in a disaster kind of scenario as well. Having this documentation also helps your IT troubleshooters. They know exactly where to go to look for things. It really saves a lot of time having updated documentation on your firewall. One other thing that we suggest with firewalls is doing some sort of an inbound test. There are ways for companies like ours to simulate an attack on your network. And we can then identify any of those vulnerabilities that you have and work on ways to give you corrective action. If you email solutions@swicktech.com, we can arrange to have one of those tests done. There's some basic tests that are no charge, and then there's some more involved tests that you need to do. Another thing to consider is if you do any credit card processing, there's a very formal credit card test that's required. It's called PCI compliance, and it's Payment Card Incorporated. They have this test that they use to make sure that your network is properly protected. Layer 2 is the next area where we look at how to protect your network. These are things like your server program, your servers, your antivirus programs, your workstations, and so forth. To start with that, step 3 is an employee use policy. Do you have a documented policy on what your IT can be used for? It's not that you don't trust your employees, it's just you want to set proper expectations. We have an employee use policy at our company, and there's more to protecting your company than just how do the employees do web surfing, for instance. We actually have a corporate credit card use policy, and for our regular monthly payments that we make for subscription services on the internet, we have one credit card dedicated to those regular monthly subscriptions. We know they're trusted vendors. We can use that single credit card. For our other purchases on the internet, where we might go to Amazon or eBay or any of those things that we have one-time purchases on the internet, we have a separate credit card for that. Should that separate credit card get hacked, it doesn't affect our regular monthly subscriptions. So little things like that can help you protect your network. Other things you might want to include in your employee use policy might be some sort of a training program. Teach your employees what to watch out for when they're surfing the internet, what kinds of malicious emails might they be getting. You want to protect that as well. So having those instructions and those training sessions can help you better protect your network. Another option is to obtain some sort of a web filtering product. We have a Swick web filtering product that we use that's available. It protects those bad websites from even getting into your network and showing up in the browsers. And where we really see it is on the pop-up ads inside some of the web pages you go to. We don't even let those pop-up ads show up because we know they're malicious. So the web filtering product helps protect that. We also use a product that works well for laptops because when the laptop leaves the building, it's still subject to those web filtering policies. That way somebody can't accidentally get hacked just because they happen to have their laptop out at Starbucks one day. It's, again, just another way to lock it down. Step 4, routine maintenance. Find someone to manage the automated process of patching your applications and keeping your antivirus up to date with some sort of monitoring. We highly recommend the monitoring because even though you have the set it and forget it kind of approach to doing your routine maintenance, somebody needs to check once in a while that the routine maintenance is actually occurring. Are the antivirus definitions getting updated on a schedule? Are your Microsoft patches getting routinely applied? And are you applying the right patches? Sometimes those set it and forget it processes will install patches and things that you don't need on your computer. So make sure you have a proactive approach to monitoring and doing that routine maintenance. At Swick Technologies, we want to make sure we know and understand everything that gets applied to a computer, so we tend not to use the internal built-in automated process. We have a separate system that manages and monitors all the routine maintenance in the antivirus programs. Another thing to consider is the alerting that your software might be able to provide. For instance, most backup software has an alerting capability to give you an email when it's successful and another email when it fails. Well, keep in mind that if you don't get an alert from the backup, that's also a failure to us. So we actually have a checklist of all the backup jobs that we manage, and if we don't get an alert from a backup job, that's a failure to us. So we look into it and find out what may be happening. Locking down your network also helps optimize the performance of your systems. Part of the routine maintenance is things like defrag and cleaning up temp files. Just helps your network with performance as well as protecting it from viruses and hackers. Step 5 is no local admin rights. This is the one thing that I get the most grief about. People like to say, hey, I own the computer, I should be able to install whatever I want. And that's fine, but even me as the owner of the company, my day-to-day user ID does not have administrative rights. Our recommendation is when you need administrative rights, create a second ID. My Gary admin ID is the one that allows me to install software. Where this really comes into play is, let's say you go to a website that's been compromised and behind the scenes software tries to install on your computer. If you have local admin rights, that installation will happen without you knowing about it. If you don't have admin rights, when that installation kicks off, you're going to get a pop-up that says, do you really want to install the software? Provide me with a user ID and a password for this installation to be completed. That way you get that one last chance to say, hey, wait a minute, is this something I really want to install, or is this something that's getting installed behind the scenes? In all the networks that we manage, we turn off local admin rights for all the day-to-day user IDs. And every now and then, some user will call us and say, hey, I'm going to this website and I'm getting prompted to put in an administrative password. Well, sure enough, that website's been compromised, and we tell them, nope, don't install it. Let's lock it down. Step 6 is a corporate shared file security model. As you can see here, we have, this is my desktop, and all of my shared files go through one location, something that is our S drive for shared files. And we use a departmental least permissions model. With that, if I don't have access to a particular folder, then I don't see it. As the president, I see the accounting, the management, the HR folders. If one of our technical people were to go into the same S drive, they may not see executive, or they may not see the sales department. If they're not in that department, they're not supposed to have access to that. We don't give them access to it. The other thing that we do is we recommend using what's called the distributed file system. What that does is it allows you to reference a physical location of files with a logical name. So in this case, the logical name is SwickTech. It's physically stored on the server. Should that data get moved somewhere else, we can change that representation behind the scenes, and then I don't have to learn anything new with the location. I'm still going after it under my Swick S drive. That definitely helps simplify the controls. Having that central storage also helps simplify the backups and auditing if you want to do actual auditing of who accesses files and so forth. Step 7, encrypt your mobile devices. In this case, you want to make sure that anything that accesses or might be holding corporate data is encrypted. Should the laptop get stolen or the phone get taken, with the encryption, people can't get the data off of it. They can't take your corporate secrets. Some of the newer phones nowadays are having the corporate data as an application on the phone rather than data that's stored itself. Where this is important is in the control of that corporate data. The newer phones now have the capabilities that if it's stolen, I can wipe the corporate data off the phone and still protect your personal data. It's a great application for those companies that have a lot of remote salespeople or traveling executives that need that corporate data to run the business, but you still want to protect it and keep it out of the hands of the hackers. Another recommendation that we have for wireless networks is to have a separate corporate network and a separate guest network. What that allows you to do is the guest network can get out to the internet, but they can't get over to the corporate network. They're completely blocked from it. And this is important if you have vendors coming in or employees that want to use a personal phone. That way they can get to the internet, but they don't have a way to compromise and look at your corporate network. Step 8, verify your recovery plan. We always recommend that you have some sort of an off-site backup taken. The primary reason for that is, let's assume your building is a fire, it collapses, you can't get into the building to get at your backups, so make sure you have some sort of off-site backup. This could be as simple as taking the tapes home with you so that you have them at your house. Other services will take them to a secure location like a safety deposit box. More of the trend in the industry these days is to use an electronic off-site backup. We have both programs available. It kind of depends on the size of the client and the type of backups that we're doing for them. Make sure also that you test and document your ability to restore from a disaster. A lot of people say, yep, the backup's there, and then all of a sudden they need to do a restore, and they've never actually tested it. They don't know what steps and procedures are needed to make that backup active again. And then also have that documented on paper. One of the things, if everything is electronic and your building collapses, you can't get access to the electronic data, so you need a printed copy. We have a customer that the office manager keeps a binder in the trunk of her car, and in the binder is all the primary contacts information of the company, all the primary contacts of the vendors that they work with, and then the recovery procedures for what happens if there's a fire, what happens if the building collapses, what steps do you do to get your data back and recovered again. Combining the off-site backup with our managed private cloud product gives us the ability to do a 24-hour restore of your environment. So should your building collapse, we can get your critical business systems back up again and running in our data center and provide you with access to that within 24 hours. And that is tested, so we make sure that that can happen and we know exactly what steps are needed and what takes place to get you back up and running again. Step 9 is scan the luggage before it gets on the plane. This was done when I was obviously this was done when I was on vacation. I was sitting in the airport and I realized that, you know, before we put anything on a plane, we're going to scan it, we're going to look at it, we're going to make sure that it's safe. Well, the same thing applies to your email correspondence. We have a product, the email X-ray. that we actually look for viruses and spam on the email system, on the email before it's delivered to your email server. By catching it in the early stages, we make sure that your network is locked down and that it's protected. Step 10, take your IT guy to lunch. Trust is critical with any of your IT vendors. You want to make sure that your core values of your company is aligned with the core values of the IT company. Not every IT company is a one-size-fits-all solution. We don't work well in every single environment. If you look at restaurants, for instance, while the technology they use in a restaurant is real similar to other technology that's out there, we don't specialize in the software that's used for the day-to-day running and management of a restaurant. Look for an IT company that specializes in that. We specialize primarily in manufacturing and distribution. We understand a lot of the other technologies, but having a company that aligns with your values is really important. Also look for a company that's going to give you annual or semi-annual infrastructure reviews. Do you meet with them on a regular basis to discuss your company's business plans? Are you growing? Are you going to add another location? Is there a new product line that you might be going to offer that's going to impact the technology that you use to deliver your services? Share that feedback with your IT people and communicate regularly to make sure that your plans for your business align with your technology. We really want to make your technology work for your business and generate extra profit within your business and not just be an expense item, kind of like it has to be there. So make sure that you have a trusted partner in your IT world, and at SwickTech it's very important for us to be that trusted IT partner. So in summary, there's 3 different layers that we look at for locking down your network. Making sure your firewall is in place, making sure your internal systems, processes, antivirus, and everything is taken care of, and then have your offsite backup and possibly some sort of a program to scan your email before it gets into your building. Thanks again. Are there any questions? Okay. I don't see anything getting posted in the question and answers. So I want to thank you again for attending the seminar today. I hope you found the information useful. If you have any questions or you want more information on the handouts or you want the templates, the actual Visio documents and so forth, just email solutions@swicktech.com and we'll be more than happy to provide you with those blank templates and you can kind of start filling out your documentation. So thanks again, and we appreciate your taking the time with us today. Bye.